So the Misfit of Demon King Academy is a show that I had no interest in watching initially. I looked at the poster, looked at the preview, read the description. It sounded like a traditional light novel Magic Academy series. Some sort of magical abilities, you'd have like an overpowered character or just a character that all the ladies would latch on to. And you just kind of know what to expect if you've seen at least 3 of them. They kind of mostly function the same. And Silverlink is known for doing a lot of shows in that nature. But then I saw a lot of buzz around the first episode. I heard so much buzz that like people are hyping up as one of the best anime of the season. I was like, either it's really solid production or there's something unique about it. And then I had a patron of mine say, oh, you really should watch it, you should really review it. So I said, you know what, okay, let's check this out. I wouldn't be able to do reviews on Saturday, but I could get my reviews out on Monday for the show. I watched the first 2 episodes and hot damn, what a show. This isn't gonna be like a revolutionary idea or anything to that nature, but it is brutal and fun. It's quirky, it's gimmicky, it knows what it is, it's confident in that fact, and in doing so, it rolls with what it can without trying to be something it can't be. And what I mean is a lot of times, shows honestly have a good idea or they have a good gimmick. It's like a restaurant that has one signature dish, but they try to be an Italian restaurant when really they should just try to be the best burger joint on the block because that's their signature. And a lot of times a show like this, it has honestly an idea that could be enjoyable for a season or 2's worth of content, but they spread it too thin and they try to do too much. But I can honestly say Demon King, it has 2 really good ideas going for it, and based on these 2 episodes, it doesn't seem like episode 1 was a one-hit wonder, but rather it knows what it's doing and it's pretty confident in what it can be. I mean, episode 1 really flexes how brutal the show can be. Your main character is literally the reincarnated version of himself from 2,000 years ago, and the academy that basically teaches the descendants of his bloodline of like who could be the next ruler, it was taught pretty much false information, and he's so powerful, he can literally kill people, revive them, kill them, revive them, kill them, revive them, until they beg for their life, even though their life's been taken 100 times at that point already. It seems to me that what it is doing is it's not just being brutal for the Edgefest, because even though it was brutal, they didn't highlight it in like a horror fashion. When body parts were either flying in episode 1 or getting fried to literal death in episode 2, rather than make it horrifying, they definitely showed blood and they had dramatic effects to it, but it didn't try to churn your stomach. Rather, it just said, this is a Demon King. This is someone who can murder. Don't piss him off. And in doing so, they created a really violent and brutal atmosphere that didn't go so overboard it became edgy, but it didn't go so underboard that you're like, okay, he's not all that powerful. Rather, I was like, this dude's powerful and probably no one can oppose him. That's kind of what you want to see if you have the title like Demon King at your disposal. The second main quirk it has going for it is honestly, it's self-aware. It understands it's goofy and silly a lot of the times, but it also understands that because it recognizes what it is, and this main character isn't someone who's scared of females like you traditionally see. He literally gets kissed by the end of episode 2, and he's just like, oh, that's sweet of you, that's obviously something valuable. He's not scared to interact with women, which is honestly something that you shouldn't want to compliment, but in shows like these, you honestly have to, because it's very far and in between the last one that you can compare, being like, thank God you have a protagonist in a situation like this who isn't that socially awkward. I mean, you're 2,000 years old, I kind of hope you are, even if you are only a 1-month-old baby in this world at this point in time. Is confident in that fact, so you can have moments where literally he's born, immediately drops his name, grows up in a month, and then goes to school. And in doing so, you just have some of the most ridiculous shenanigans you can probably associate with, honestly, having something you traditionally wouldn't see. Because usually with Demon Kings and things like that, you either have really serious or you have really goofy. But it somehow kind of found a unique middle ground where we have the brutal, and when it is brutal, it doesn't feel jarring because this dude's persona, he's not monotone, he's not emotionless, he's not overly bubbly, he's charismatic, he knows what he's doing, he's confident in that, and every time he tries to make jokes, the jokes just don't land because his humor is 2,000 years outdated. Honestly, one of my favorite parts actually comes more relevant in the second episode, but was touched upon in the first, is honestly the parents. It is very cliche in some senses, but when you have, by the second time, he brings another girl home, I love how the mother is like, oh my god, seriously, a second bride? I was pretty proud on the first one, but a second one? And the father, who was very proud the first time around, is like, even I didn't do that, son. How the hell did this happen? It's just such a ridiculous idea for a joke, but when you know who this character is, and how no one believes him for who he actually is, it just creates such a dynamic you can't help but let out a giggle or right out chuckle, depending on your sense of humor. I really like this show. I think it knows what it's doing, and the fact that it's not afraid to make you laugh or try to make stupid humor, because a lot of times he'll just be dropping things or saying, hey, you know, this is 2,000-year-old jokes and people are just like rolling their eyes and being like, this dude's crazy. And the fact that they made the main story hook, the fact that this academy is teaching the opposite of what is factual, which obviously Victor's right, the history books, and just obviously things could, you know, it's kind of like the telephone game where one person starts with an object, it gets passed to the next person, and the next person, by the time the last person whispers it to the first person's ear, it's not even what they originally said. So imagine 2,000 years worth of history. It's obvious why things wouldn't be exactly the same. And the fact that you have a Demon King who actually worked with a hero and actually was willing to give his life for a hero, like, there's obviously some interesting quirks to this character for not being straight up evil, but not straight up good. He's kind of his own person, and it honestly has a lot of room for some serious and comedic plot lines down the road. And that's why I think this show is honestly going to be really fun the entire way through. You can honestly just look at the pacing of this show, and obviously anytime you adapt like a light novel or a manga, usually the pacing is obviously sped up or amplified to make it more interesting for the anime medium, but obviously is subject to criticism from people of the source material. All I can say is, as an anime original, it's refreshing having a character like Hsieh who is very tsundere, very pushy, and saying like, oh, I'm better than everyone. And within an episode, it doesn't feel like it's jarring. It's because she literally lost and his power is so much better than her that she's bound in contract, but also kind of respects him because the fact that he was able to mend the relationship between sisters, it makes sense why she would change and not stay in a rut and just be the same cliche we've seen time and time again. Because her initial personality you can compare to, but now that she overcame that hurdle, she can probably become something quite interesting. And Misha, being the kind of almost emotionless, she's being compared as a doll that she's been put apart. You know, there's a lot of room for her character as well, so given enough time, I'm sure her character will be quite interesting down the road. And I always like kind of emotionless and monotone characters at the start because generally they become really interesting by the end of the show or closer to the middle because you understand what made them be that emotionless, especially compared to how these sisters are in two different situations here. One is being portrayed as like this noble, the other is a white robe, which is pretty much the lowest of the low, but the lowest of the low is actually being the misfit because you know jack shit and are the lowest compatibility to be the Demon King. Which I just like that idea, the fact that the true Demon King is the most compatible, but by the Academy standard, he's the least. So basically, everyone that they're saying is great is actually the complete opposite of what the Descendant ruler should be. And that's kind of amazing to me, but I do like the fact that he did spot out that Hsieh is someone that actually has a lot of promise and her eyes really show a lot of magic aptitude. So it's going to be fun to see where he takes her because obviously now that they have their little mini squad going, it'll be interesting to see like what battles will look like because honestly the show's incredibly well produced. The general slice of life or talking scenes are kind of what you expect for a show in this nature, but the amount of magic and explosions and just visual flair to this is honestly really creative. It's brutal, it's vibrant, and it never feels like each magic attack is the same as the last one. I'm sure over the course of the run, by the time we get the midway point, some of the magic attacks will feel familiar to others because obviously there's only going to be a set amount of magic and, you know, magic types and things like that, and some magic attacks will be reused. So there will be some repeat animation, I'm sure, at some points in time, but based on the 2 episodes, we've seen a pretty wide variety, and it feels like something for like a AAA production in terms of the combat at the very least, with the character designs and the world pieces and things like that being pretty much what you expect for a show in this nature. But honestly, it's pretty damn fun. I like how it's confident in what it's trying to be, and because it's not trying to be too much, it's not trying to be, oh, we're super serious and then we're going to give every single character this insane deep plot line. What they're doing is they're focusing on a small cast of characters, goofy and really dramatic, brutal, and honestly in doing so, the main story hook of a demon being reincarnated and just what he does with his academy seems very appealing, at least for myself. This is a show that just looks so generic on the outside, but honestly the generic elements that are in these episodes, they feel like they become something at least, the very worst, entertaining, and at its very best with the whole like kind of twisting of the academy formula, it seems like there's a lot of possibility for some serious and honestly quite interesting plot lines, especially with the hero and just how they say if you've ever been reincarnated, we'll be friends again in that situation. So obviously I'm excited to see where that goes. I don't have much complaints for these first 2 episodes. The fact that it just knew what it wanted to be, the production was tight, the voice actors are having fun, I love our main character's voice. It is so cocky and just, it's charismatic, so it's really easy to like him as a character, despite some of the things he does is quite questionable. Well, actually, it's really questionable, but hey, I mean, if you want to make the brothers into zombies and then say, hey, you know, just show that brotherly love, and then just get disappointed by the end result while then reviving him and saying, hey, get stronger and I'll fight you again, how can you not love this show at the very least? Let me know your thoughts and opinions either on the first episode or this latest one down below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like to show your support, and remember to hit that subscribe button if you happen to be new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.